You wake up one morning and realize a page is missing from a book you thought you had read, cover to cover. Not a footnote, not a chapter, an entire era, a whole epoch of human experience, scrubbed from the record as if it never existed. That is not a metaphor. That is exactly what some researchers believe happened to the story of humanity. The history you were taught has a beginning. Around 5,000 years ago, civilizations appeared. Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley. Writing emerged, cities rose, agriculture spread. And before that, prehistory, primitive people, wandering hunter-gatherers with no monuments, no records, no legacy worth preserving. That is the official story. But what if that story has a missing chapter? Graham Hancock has spent decades asking that question. He is not a trained archaeologist. He is an investigative journalist who followed anomalies the way a detective follows clues, and the clues kept pointing in the same direction. Ancient sites that do not fit the timeline, myths from cultures that never met each other, all describing the same catastrophe. Mathematical alignments in stone structures that required astronomical knowledge no primitive society should have possessed. Hancock looked at all of it and asked the question mainstream academia had been avoiding. What if we are not the pinnacle of human development? What if we are, in fact, the survivors? His most influential book, Fingerprints of the Gods, published in 1995, laid out the case methodically. The response from the academic world was swift and largely dismissive. Critics called him a pseudoscientist, but some of the anomalies he pointed to have never been fully explained away. Start with Göbekli Tepe. In the 1990s, archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavating a site in southeastern Turkey that would force historians to rewrite their assumptions. What he found were massive carved stone pillars arranged in circles, decorated with intricate animal reliefs, built with extraordinary precision. The site was dated to approximately 11,600 years ago. That is 6,000 years before Stonehenge, 7,000 years before the pyramids, and it was built by people who, according to prevailing theory, had not yet discovered agriculture. They were supposed to be simple nomads. But no simple nomad builds a temple complex of that scale. Schmidt himself said it. First came the temple, then came the city. Göbekli Tepe did not fit the model, and it raised the question of what else might be buried, still waiting. Then there is the ocean floor. At the end of the last ice age, roughly 12,000 years ago, global sea levels rose by more than 100 meters. Coastlines were swallowed. Land that had been habitable for tens of thousands of years vanished beneath the waves. If an advanced civilization had existed during the Ice Age, its most populated areas would have been coastal. They would now be underwater. Researcher Glenn Milne has mapped the extent of that lost land. Millions of square kilometers of habitable territory simply ceased to exist. Any structures built there would now sit beneath 60 to 120 meters of ocean. We have barely begun to search. The myths seem to remember something. Almost every ancient culture on Earth carries a flood narrative. The Sumerians wrote about Utnapishtim, warned of a coming deluge, and instructed to preserve all knowledge. The Hindu texts describe Manu, who survived a great flood and rebuilt civilization. The Mesoamerican traditions speak of a world destroyed by water. Hancock argues these are not coincidences. They are memories. Distorted by time, passed through oral tradition across dozens of generations, but memories of a real event. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, proposed by researcher Richard Firestone and colleagues in 2007, suggests a comet struck the Earth approximately 12,900 years ago, triggering catastrophic cooling, massive floods, and widespread extinction. The evidence includes nanodiamonds and impact markers found across 4 continents. If that event happened, any civilization existing at that time would have been devastated. Not slowly. Suddenly. Hancock is not saying aliens built the pyramids. He is saying something both simpler and more unsettling. He is saying that the human story is longer and stranger than the textbooks admit. That brilliance is not new. That your ancestors, tens of thousands of years ago, may have looked at the night sky with the same precision you look at it now. You live in a civilization roughly 5,000 years old if you measure from the first written records. Modern Homo sapiens have existed for at least 300,000 years. That means for 295,000 years, your species walked this planet with a brain identical to the one in your skull right now, and left almost no trace that archaeologists recognize as civilization. Does that seem likely? Does it seem credible that for 295 millennia, beings with your exact cognitive capacity never once organized themselves into something complex enough to leave a lasting mark? Or is it possible that the mark was left, and we simply have not found it yet? Less than 20% of the ocean floor has been mapped in detail. The Amazon basin, long assumed to be pristine jungle, has yielded evidence of massive pre-Columbian earthworks and managed landscapes suggesting a civilization of millions that the jungle swallowed whole. Researcher Anna Roosevelt excavated cave sites there that pushed back the timeline of sophisticated human habitation in South America by thousands of years. The jungle hid it. The ocean hid it. The ice hid it. What else is hiding? Hancock's greatest contribution may not be the answers he has proposed. It may be the discomfort he has created. The discomfort of realizing that certainty about the past is not the same as knowledge of it. That absence of evidence is not evidence of absence when we have barely looked. You wake up one morning and realize a page is missing, and once you see it, you cannot stop asking who tore it out and what it said.